Hello and welcome to Artisan Electrics, where you join us today in the -6 wind chill in the beautiful Cambridgeshire countryside. I actually just saw a cow making ice cream. In fact, on the way here, I saw a queue of chickens queuing up outside KFC to take their turn in the deep fryer. What can all this cold mean? Well, only one thing. Jordan has us working outside. Okay guys, so I'll show you around the job quickly. We have quite a good little renewable setup here. We've got the solar edge inverter, we've got the battery storage system here, and we've got a little separate consumer unit just for all the renewable stuff. So the plan is we're going to use the Harvey, the MyEnergi Harvey, connect up some CTs, current transducers or current transformers, depending on where you're from and what your preferences are. Caught it. And we have one which I'm going to stick onto the battery storage, one that I'm going to stick onto the solar, and one that I'm actually going to stick onto the grid. And we've already got a few CTs in here already for the solar guy. But the plan is we'll connect them all up and get them all linked up to the actual Zappi that's been installed. Oh, I've not spoken about that yet. We're installing the Zappi today, guys. Installing the car charger. The customer has actually kindly run the cable for us already. Here it is. They run it in when they were doing some building work, basically just to future-proof, which was a very sensible idea, because now we're here, we can just install it straight away. So the cable comes out of the floor here, so we're going to clip it up, mount the Zappi there, get the Zappi installed, and the Zappi will basically, very cleverly, work with the battery storage, the solar, and the grid to basically balance it and use it in the most efficient way, which we'll show you more of later when we get it all programmed and set up. And we'll show you how we clamp the CTs and all the rest of it and get it all going as the video progresses. So yeah, sit tight. I hope you've got a nice cup of tea or whiskey or whatever it is that you drink, and enjoy the video. Okay, so anyone that has worked with me knows I hate mess on site and I like things to be organised. And Costco, if you're watching this, right, give me a little bit of discount or something for all the shout outs that you're getting on here. I'm even starting to drink the Kirkland drinks and eat all the Kirkland food, like the hef that I am. So this table I got from Costco and it's awesome. Super organised. Just keeping all your stuff nice and neat. I'm back to DeWalt, thankfully, this week. I've given Jordan back his Makita. I'm sorry, I just don't like it. So we're going to have to make some changes inside the consumer unit. So here's one I unscrewed earlier. Basically, plan is get rid of the RCD main switch. Well, sorry, RCCB. If you're an apprentice or a learner, put in the comments what the difference is between RCD and RCCB as a challenge for you, because I don't know. I'm joking. Well, maybe I'm not. Put it in the comments and you'll find out. So we're going to swap the RCCB for a main switch, because the Zappi has its own 30 milliamp RCD protection built into it. It's not actually got any physical coils or anything, but all the electronics within it are compliant with, I think, 61008. So it gives type A 30 milliamp protection, so it'll give you the 6 milliamps DC as well. So pretty cool stuff. So we're going to put that on a main switch. We're going to swap the two battery system circuits for the MCBs, and then I think one of these, I can't remember which because I've just taken the cover off now, needed to be on an RCD. So I've got an RCBO for that one. And the car charger circuit is clipped direct SWA and then run underground, presumably. Done okay. I'll be honest, I didn't actually see the install obviously because it was done years ago with all the building work. So we're going to have to make some modifications inside the consumer unit. It's quite a good job that's been done, to be fair. Usually for solar installs we've found, as our viewers have seen, some pretty shocking work, if you'll pardon the pun, but it's actually not too bad here. I mean, if you were going to be really fussy, you could say using a metal consumer unit outdoors isn't really ideal. I know we're underneath like a little bike shed and it's really good weather here all the time. Like, it generally stays quite nice and toasty. in this part of the country, so maybe you could argue it, but I probably wouldn't use metal outside. I tend to go for like an IP rated option, and using this T&E outside is not the most ideal either. Is it T&E? Yeah, it's T&E. It's not the most ideal, but then again, loose stuffing gland, you could argue that it's kind of out of the UV rays of the sun because it's underneath this roof. So overall, yeah, it's not a bad little setup. So we're going to get cracking. I'm going to isolate all of this. I'm going to get Oscar to actually clip all the cable round and up, and then we'll get Oscar to clip the cable and make the gland off, and then if you're a Sparky that's already done a million SWA glands, you can always skip that bit of the video. If you're new and you want to watch the way that I would do it, and feel free to tune in. Or if you're an experienced Sparky and you want to rip me to pieces for the way that I do it without using proper spanners, stop using grips on the cable. You're going to ruin it. You're such a domestic Sparky. Thank you. I have spanners that will do SWA glands, but I have these, which in my opinion are just as good, and I'm not going to carry around loads of spanners. So throw all of that love into the comments, and I probably won't read it. Right. Thank you guys for watching. See you shortly. So Oscar is going to quickly chisel out the corner of this brick here. So we're going to get Oscar doing his first ever SWA cable. He's never glanded one off. He's never actually even clipped one. So we're going to take it round this corner, clip it along and up into the consumer unit. The reason why I'm chiseling the corner off is because I don't really like running cables tight on the corner of bricks. So I don't want it to cut into the insulation or the sheet. So plan is to try and just, we'll quickly do it now. We'll just chisel that corner off. Just like that, just a tiny little bit. Just for the cable to sit into. When we push it around, then it will sit underneath it, and we can always fill it with a bit of red silicone or something, and it just then has not got a sharp edge on the cable, whereas before it would have had to have bent round it. So we're going to get Oscar clipping that, and then we'll come back to you shortly. So Oscar's done that completely by himself. I've given him no assistance, and I think it looks pretty awesome, to be fair. So he's going to bring that round, pop that up and in, and I'm going to show him how to terminate the SWA gland. We'll terminate it into the side of this board. I'm just installing surge protection and replacing some of these for RCBOs. Needs a big old tidy up. I'll show you at the end when we've got all the cables in. But I need to take all of this out and replace them for RCBOs. I wasn't really too fussed about having RCD protection for these little bits of cable here, but I think it's probably better to do it. And we've got the RCBOs, so why not? And I'm dropping the Harvey into here, and that Harvey is what connects the CTs to the Zappi then. I'm using these lovely little sticky pads, zip tie bases basically, so you just put the cable tie through that, and then stick that on. These are the lovely cutters that Klein sent to me very kindly, and I've kind of got all the sizes now. Well, they sent me these ones are just mine that I've bought, but how cool is that? It's like the baby cutters up to the big daddy cutters. Oh yeah. But anyways, we're getting on well. I think the way we're heading will probably be a nice early finish, but I don't want to say that because that's exactly what you say just before everything goes wrong usually. Oscar's been having a pretty wicked education in quality music as well. Everything from The Cure to a bit of Huey Lewis. I don't know if you're allowed to. Are you allowed to show that? Yeah, go on, you can show him that. We'll just give him a 2 second. What's the minimum amount of time do you reckon before YouTube copyright will cut in?
I think it's like 10 seconds.
10 seconds, right, we'll give him 9 seconds of a bit of some absolute bangers. But yeah, we're teaching him that, coming from this little speaker here. And other than that, it's going really well. To actually program the Zappi, I'm going to get, because we're doing really well for time as well, I'm going to get Oscar to mount the Zappi and do a lot of that himself. And I'll just do what Jordan does, stand back and watch, basically. Okay, so I've actually changed my mind again. I don't want to put it on an RCBO, just because it's such a short length of run, and it's clips direct from there to there. just don't think it's worth putting an RCBO on it. I happened to have this one on my van, but I didn't have the 16. So it would be a case of picking one up, and I just really don't feel it needs it. So I'm going to take it out and just stick with MCBs. Obviously, where it's being powered out to, where the actual power is coming back into the building, the house has RCD protection and things. So Oscar's been clipping this himself. He's done an awesome job. He's just adding a couple more clips because this clipping spacing was slightly off to the on-site guide requirements. So we're just adding those in, and then we'll do a nice little bit of footage of him second fixing this into the actual consumer unit here. I've finished with the CTs. So one sec, Oscar, with the drilling. So these are coming down into here. These are the solar ones. We're just dressed down and round and in. And basically how it works inside here, they're designed with 3 different CT inputs. I call them current transducers. I think MyEnergi call them current transformers. I would call them a transducer because it's transducing a signal from one type of information to another. But basically, you've got the different things for the different individual inputs. So I've put the grid on CT1, I've put the solar on CT2, and I've put the battery storage then in CT3. Now on the Zappi has 3 different CT inputs as well. But I'm not going to use those because that would mean running a data cable from here to the Zappi. And obviously the armoured cable has already been run. You can buy EV Ultra cable and cables such as that, which actually will have the Cat5 cable installed inside of it already. Or you can get a 2-pair or a 2-core installed in it to run the CTs over. But like I say, we're not doing that in this case. We're using the Harvey, which will send the signal wirelessly. The Harvey doesn't actually need power. The Harvey will induce a current and power itself off of the actual load of the devices. Okay, so the plan is I'm going to do this side with Oscar watching, because he's never actually done one of these before. Well, it's barely even his first few weeks of actually doing electrics. So I'm going to show Oscar exactly how I would personally go about doing it. It's going to be a little bit trickier because the cable's quite stiff and all the boots are quite stiff because it's like -6 outside, which is exactly perfect car charger weather, apparently. So I'll do this side and Oscar can do the other side. So put the boot on first before anything else. So I put it on backwards like that, because nobody likes a loose boot. A loose boot is heartbreaking. There's a snake in my boot. Right. So you see that little mark that I've made there? I'm then just going to nip off that little bit around it. So I'll take it off. Give that a snippety snip. And that now be a lovely tight boot. Look at that. That is tighter than a plumber hiring an electrician. So in the meantime, because our cable is already fixed to a set length and this is already installed, I would usually install this end first. And it does matter which way round your lock ring goes on. So you'll see that one end is kind of curved round and one end is flat. So you want the flat end to be pushed up against it and it will hold it on tighter. So we sit it nice and flush inside. I always prefer to have the banjo on the inside if I can help it, but that is pure personal preference. So that tightens on there, and basically this cable is called an SWA cable. It's called that because it stands for still wire armoured, because inside you've got a layer of outer insulation, you've got a layer of steel wiring, and then inside of that you've then got the actual cable. What's really important is that this armouring is earthed at least one end. So that's earthed by sitting onto that cone and being pinched down. So we've lined this up, so just eyeball it, make sure it all looks good. Decide kind of where you want it to go. Here, I'm happy with that as a bending radius. You don't want really tight bends on cable, you want to try and leave things nice and swooped if you can help it. I'm just going to eyeball that, I reckon that is about there. I find that roughly the width of a piece of electrical tape is about the width that you need. for the next step on these smaller cables. What I'll then do is get the junior hacksaw, and on this side of the tape, I use the tape as a nice guide so that I don't slip. So I'll give that a quick nip round. But I actually find it, the smaller the SWA cable is, the harder I generally find it to make off. Like anything 16mm upwards generally is a bit easier, because I don't know, it just is, it's just bigger. You can manage it and manhandle it a little bit. Then we strip off this end bit here. Again, there is a tool for that. I'm aware, thank you YouTube and Instagram, but we're going to learn it the old school way. Yeah, I want that to cut. Oh yeah. So, eye that up. Yeah, I think we're pretty spot on there. What do you reckon? Yeah, looks good. So the width of the tape, we cut round, avoiding any fingers. That would be an amateur move. We slice around, give it the old schloopity schnicety. I could just get my big boy naughty little shears on it. Just get a nice little circle. Oh yeah. And I'm just going to snip that off. Why, we don't want close-ups of this, thank you. And then before we spread them out, we then need to get the actual gland itself. Where did I put it? There it is. So we get this, slide that up, we need that ring. Slide that up, slide that over into there. We get this little ring. Oh, also it matters which way round this is, and now I don't know which way it was. I think it's that way. If we really struggle, we'll take it off and do it again. Take that off. And then give this a good old spread. Make sure we've not nicked any cable. We're good. It's really easy. I've nearly done it there. That was weak of me there. I'll get slaughtered for that, I'm sure. But I've not actually nicked through the insulation. But it's quite easy when you're hacksawing with these tiny little cables, just to go straight through them because they're so small. Just make sure you haven't nicked anything. If you have, it's not the end of the world. Like, you know, strip it back a bit further and heat shrink it or something. But no, we're good there. So give that a good spread out. Spread it like toast on Mother's Day, or whatever you spread toast for in your house. Right. Oh, wait a minute. I shouldn't be using any... I forgot. I wasn't going to use any sort of assistance. But seeing as I'm now injured, I'm going to do it the easy way. And you can struggle with it yourself later. Give that a chop. Probably give ourselves plenty. Cut it about there. There we go. Then I usually leave about an inch, well, I shouldn't say an inch, like a centimetre and a half, something like that. Make our life a bit easier. Right, pop that through, like so. Just give that another little spread.
It still goes around.
Yeah, that's it. So you want the still bit to go round it. So you see then, because I've given that bit of space, that insulation makes it then inside the consumer unit a bit better. And the reason why I didn't want to strip this back too far is because I want the black rubber inside there to be tightening onto black. I don't want it to be tightening onto there. Yeah. You want it back to black. Right. Now, give that a little tighten up. I know a lot of people give stick to people that don't use glanding spanners, but like I'm working out of a little caddy, you know. Every bit of space is at a premium, and having a couple of these is basically like having a whole ton of weight and space saved. So I usually just use them instead. Right, there we go. So we just check, make sure it's all good. Yeah, make sure we're definitely not nicked anything. We're all good. Lovely. Then you tighten up this one. We'll give it a final once over at the end. Let's speed this up. That's one. I think that's about as tight as we're going to get it. There we go. So that is a very solid armoured cable gland. Then once we're certain that it's all tight, we slide this boot on. Boot, shroud, cover, sleeve, whatever you want to call it. I call it a boot, I don't know why, I just always have. And I force it too much, it's such thin metal, it'll just bend the metal. Right, so I'm not going to wire these up. As I said yesterday, we always work backwards towards the dangerous end. So this is the dangerous end, that's the safe end. So we're going to go get the Zappi done, get the Zappi wired up. We've got this all torqued out, everything, the ones we've touched and changed. We're going to go do the Zappi end, and then we're going to come back here and connect up this end after we're finished over there. Okay, so I'm going to show Oscar how to mount this and get him to do pretty much all of it. This is a tethered black Zappi that we're using. So Oscar, we have this little instructional pad here. So you have to mount them. The top of the actual screen needs to be between 1.2 and 1.4 meters. Conveniently, the middle of my hip is exactly 1.2 meters, and just touching my nipple is 1.4. And when I'm wearing these shoes, for those that don't believe me, because someone mentioned the other day, oh, he's not measuring it. Well, actually, I happen to know 1.4 meters perfectly touches my nipple. 1.2 meters just catches the top of my hip. Thank you very much, Mr. Commenter. I read them sometimes. Right, so we'll unplug this screen. These are really handy, a little bit of advice to stick inside your tool bag. I already have loads in there. It just keeps the moisture out. Anyway, back to, basically this is just something for the tethered ones. The untethered don't have this, but the tethered have it so that you can wrap the cable round. So it should come with these little screws here, which you can just nip in to these holes at the back. Right, so that's the back piece done, and you'll see that there's 4 fixing holes that you tend to use. So I tend to just stick for those 3 and that 4. I don't bother with that lower one. I think you actually only need the 3, in fact. I think those 2 are if you're mounting it on their special post, but we'll go for 3 anyway. And something that's important to note is that to keep the Zappi warranty, you have to use their fixings. So do you remember what size drill we use for a 7? For 8? We use a 7 for a brown plug. 7mm drill bit. But these washers basically are just like, sort of like what you just use on a normal tin roof. They've got like a gasket seal on the back and metal on the front. So we use those. Line it up with the cable where you want it, middle of the wall, in line with the cable to the edge, because the cable's already in place. I would top of the nip, just about there. Tell you what, my nips at the minute are probably showing on camera. It's so cold I nearly keyed Jordan's van with them earlier, getting something out. Level it up, do your marks. But do you want a real life hack? I just stick the drill bit through like that, mark it up where I want it. That's the height I want it at, to the top. I'll drill there. And I'll just loosely fix it on. Then it sort of levels itself. And then you just got less to hold while you mark up the other holes. So I'll let you mark those up and do your thing. What is this? A level for ants? It needs to be at least 3 times bigger than this. So I'm just doing the trip test on this at the minute. So I've got it set to a normal RCD setting. Through this little brain here, I've got it simulating a charge. So what you do is you set your tester to the normal settings that you would for a Type A RCD, and you trip it, and then you have to hold this pizza box for 3 seconds. That'll reset it with the Final Fantasy music. I love that. Check the firmware version as well while you're at it, and then it'll automatically trip again. It's just going to test the RCD, start the charge, and then it should trip. And then we reset it again. So that is how you do the RCD test on there. We're not going to do a ZS. We've done our R1 plus R2 insulation resistance, etc. So we're not going to do that. Now we're just going to do the 0.5, so it shouldn't trip, 15 milliamps. Great, so I'll come back to you when we're programming the CTs for the battery storage. Right, so I've just gone inside and plugged the hub into the network switch. So now I'm going to show you how we link the devices up. So we go into Advanced, set the default password, which we will change later. We go into Linked Devices. We set this as the master device. Now that this is the master, we go into pairing mode. Then it will search for slaves. So I'm hoping it will find the Harvey and it will find the hub, because they should all be on channel 1.1. Great, so it's just found the Harvey and the hub. So we want to see that little question mark disappear. Great, okay. So now if we go into devices, you'll see both the devices in there. Oh wait, I want to see the hub. There it is. So we wait for that little question mark to disappear. Fantastic. So that's now on our list. So we go down to linked devices. So this is where we do the clever stuff, right? With the Harvey. So we're going to tell it what to do. So CT1, if you remember, I set that as grid. So that is going to be grid. CT2, I set as solar. Generation. CT3, I set as an AC battery. So I'll show you all the different options. AC battery. That should be telling me what the house is using, yeah. So it's getting 1.6 kilowatts from the sun at the minute. So the house is happily chugging away without taking any power from the grid. So it should actually be storing 100 watts of energy, because it's taking 1.6 kilowatts. It's a lovely blue sky day. It's using 1.5 kilowatts, and I think if we go on to the, oh, it's using 1.6 now, turn the Hoover off. If we go into the app, we'll probably see it taking and storing into the different places.
Camera rolling.
Right, so you can see here, it's absolutely awesome. You've got the battery storage, the solar, the house, and the EV in the grid. So at the minute, we run on 100% renewable energy. So it's taken 1.4 kilowatts from the sun. And bearing in mind, it's not a particularly lovely day, and it's a very small PV array that they've got. It's sending 0.9 kilowatts of storage. The house is using 0.6. So it's quite a tidy little way of doing it. I genuinely think that the MyEnergi setup is probably the best on the market currently in terms of the ease of use of the app and things. And then you'll be able to see at night, basically, probably coming back out of the battery storage, back from the grid, feeding the house, feeding the car. There's lots of potential, but we'll let the customer decide what he wants to prioritise and choose in terms of charging, storage, timings, and things like that. But I just thought I'd show you the home screen anyway, to give you a taster for the actual app and the functionality of it. And he's able to program and do everything that you can control from the charger, start charge, stop charge, all of those things you can actually do from this app. So yeah, that is the install finished, thankfully, nice and early. So I've put a little test date sticker, basically saying when things are due. Tried to label everything up. So we've now got surge protection on there next to the little current meter. Right, we'll go outside. Show Oscar's lovely clipping work actually, because I think he should be pretty happy with that, considering it's the first time he's ever clipped SWA cable. I think it looks pretty good. It comes out here into the Zappi. You can tap the top and the light comes on. The PV is all connected up, battery storage is all connected up, everything is finished. How's it been?
Yeah, it's been a really good day actually.
Yeah, well, it's good for you because I can drop you home early. So, yeah, great. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Yeah, stay safe, everybody. Lots of love.